Exomologiste tokirio te agathos alleluia.
Otis ton neona to eleos aftu alleluia.
All right, so
The real topic, I didn't want to share too many personal details.
yeah, don't share personal details on. All right, so you don't want to be filmed.
Well, not for the specific conversation we started engaging. It would be a pleasure to talk with you about that, maybe in a different setting. What I'm interested in is just the end of the conversation you were having with the other gentleman.
Okay, let's talk about that then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In which you said that what it seems that you're trying to fight for or trying to get together is for the church to consolidate in order to have a front foot or something like that you said.
So the Christian community right now feels strongly about its sense of mission. But unfortunately, it's not particularly well led. The people making the decisions for us as Christians aren't great strategic thinkers. And they're very parochial in their thinking. So they think about me and my congregation and what we do in our local community. When really as Christians, we need to be thinking on a bigger scale. We need to be thinking about how you convert a nation. And how you convert a nation isn't that everyone just works in their little community.
They come together.
Yeah, well, because we're seeing the Benedict community work for the Muslim community, isn't it? You know, the Muslim community are using the Benedict option, and we are seeing that they are effectively Islamifying England.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it in France as well.
100%.
Right. So if it works for Muslims, it can work for us. And so if we as Christians want to Christianize the nation, bring the nation to Christ, then the Benedict option is the way forward. Because the thing is, when you're so spread out, when you're so thinned out that you can't, muster resources, you can't muster manpower to have any meaningful impact, the only way to do that is to consolidate. And that's what the church needs to do.
Even if symbolically or theoretically you had every member of the church here today, in order to get to your mission, which it seems like Christianize the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
What would be where does politics come in? Where does the House of Commons come in? Where does
lots of, because of the Enlightenment, lots of Christians believe in an error that says that Christianity and politics shouldn't mix. And a lot of people in our society think that Christianity and politics shouldn't mix. But nothing in the Bible teaches that. Actually, quite the opposite. I think that Christianity is political, and that we should have a political vision for society,
that
which
integrates with the House of Commons.
I'm answering your question. So we should have a political vision for society in which we want society to be Christian, including in its politics. That could include, not does or will or should, but could include a democratic element, right? But Christianity doesn't believe in like like the French Republic is a secular republic.
Yeah.
Christians don't believe in secular republicanism. That's not taught in Scripture. It doesn't land well with anything that Christianity teaches.
And do you think that what's best for this country is that the Christian rules, or that democracies rule, and that every religion can live within the umbrella of democracy? And if it was to go through the House of Commons, it would be under the umbrella of democracy, as legitimate for you to have a Christian representation, then a Muslim representation, and a Jewish representation.
Right, so you just to clarify terms, you're confusing liberalism with democracy, right? Democracy is a mechanism by which a society makes a choice.
Correct.
Right? Liberalism is an ideology. Okay? So I can envision a Christian society that has a democratic element, right? But I don't believe in liberal democracy, which you have just described. I do not want a society in which we tolerate Sharia law. I don't want a society in which we say every religion just goes and practices their own thing. I want a society that follows Christian laws and frames the laws by Christian terms and by Christian categories according to Christian values and Christian beliefs.
And your argument as to why that should be the place in the United Kingdom is based off the origin of the people from the United Kingdom?
Well, first, I mean, the United Kingdom is a particularly interesting case because constitutionally on paper, the United Kingdom is a Christian theocracy already. It is actually a Christian theocracy. We have bishops sitting in the House of Lords. The head of the state is also head of the church. It has an official religion, the Church of England. And so on paper at least, the United Kingdom is a Christian theocracy.
Which is
but
why
it's
the Christian rule should apply over any other religious.
Yes, Christian law should apply over all other religion.
In
right?
the United Kingdom.
In the United Kingdom, but I also believe that I believe in a Christian France. I don't want a liberal secular Republic of France. I want a Christian France that follows Christian law, that replaces liberté, égalité, and and fraternité with love, joy, with virtue,
faith,
with virtue, church, and the kingdom. You know, I want a Christian France. Liberal secularism is self-destructive. Look at France right now. It's dying on its feet. Islamization is occurring. The liberal republic has no mechanism to stop Islamization. Neither does the liberal democracy of the United Kingdom, neither does the liberal democracy of America. Because liberal democracy says that it fails to recognize because of its emphasis on individualism, it fails to recognize collective characteristics. And because it fails to recognize collective characteristics, it is subject to the bloc movement. Islam works as a bloc movement, and thus it takes territory. In America, it's taken Dearborn, Michigan. In France, it's taken the outskirts of Paris. In London, it's taken Eastern London. Liberal secular democracy is powerless to stop Islamization. But Christianity has reversed Islamization and can reverse Islamization in Spain, in Portugal, in Sicily, in Italy, in Greece, in Romania, in Hungary, in the Middle East. Yeah?
And what do you think is the path to that? Does it have to come through violence?
The path to that is that
Christianization of the United Kingdom.
the path to that is that firstly you become a Christian, right? And that me and you and all of the Christians work together collectively to commit ourselves as a body of people to building a new Christendom. A collective of nations that are allied to one another because of their common Christian identity, where they pass laws.
And that would be the reigning authority.
Yes, that would be the reigning authority. And then they pass laws like this. They pass laws like saying that the call to prayer can't be done with a megaphone. That halal meat is banned. That Muslims can't block the streets and pray on the streets, blocking it up. That we're going to that we'd have a policy of going after the Islamists in our society deliberately to free the wider Muslim community from the thugs that police it. Right? Now, as a Christian, I can do that. As a Christian, there's no contradiction to my values. But as a liberal, you can't do anything of what I've just said. Can you?
I would assume if we lived in a direct democracy and that's what the majority of the people wanted, and there was a clear-cut mechanism where noise doesn't get lost, where voices don't get atomized, and it lands in Parliament, and if that was what the majority of people want, then banning the Sharia law or banning halal meat could in terms actually go through. But from a democratic standpoint,
from a liberal point of view,
from a liberal point of view, because
yeah,
that's a correct political
exactly. So we're not arguing. This is not an argument about Christianity v democracy.
No.
This is an argument about Christianity v liberalism,
how do you
secularism.
Get there to this vision that you want
right.
under a law?
Yeah,
that is
I'll answer that question. So, firstly, people like me have a job to raise the minds and the consciousness of the Christian church, to get the Christian church to realize that they should have a political vision, right?
Okay.
People like you need to recognize that fraternité, égalité and liberté has failed, and that the secular Republic of France is failing, and that you need to ally yourself to the church in building a new Christendom, because that Christendom will protect you from Islamization.
Yes.
Right?
And would it collide with the current political architecture, you think?
Oh, yeah, it would, yeah, absolutely.
It would be one or the other.
Yes, yes, we've got to make a choice. Do we want liberalism or do we want Christianity?
And do you think that you/the people of the United Kingdom are entitled, or the people that want that are entitled to believe that, if today as we speak, they're actually a minority in the country?
Of course, as Christians, we see, the thing is, our right to follow our religion does not depend upon the permission of others. We follow God, we don't follow the majority. And so if God tells us to go right and the majority tell us to go left, then we go right. If God tells us to go straight and the majority tells us to go right, we go straight. Like, we as Christians shouldn't be sheep following the rest of the herd. We as Christians should be sheep following Christ.
Theoretically, is that not exactly the point that you could criticize about Islam?
Yes,
in the UK?
Muslims are doing that. But I don't criticize them for doing that. You do, I don't. A conservative does, but I don't. A Republican does, but I don't. I've got no problem with Muslims being Muslims, right? I just think that Christianity should rule, and therefore Muslims should be free to practice Islam only insofar as it is tolerable within a Christian state.
That makes sense. I understand. And do you think that in order to get to that, there's a limit of the consequences that can occur, or it's whatever it takes?
Well, I think the reality is that if we don't find a democratic means to achieve this, one of two things will happen. Either there'll be a general collapse of will to resist, and you'll just see a runaway Islamization. Or, if we can't find a democratic means, there could be a civil war. And the thing is, in the UK, we have all the ingredients. Someone's come to the corner for the first time, right? People who come to the corner for the first time get a bit excited, right? But the point is, as we've got all the ingredients for a civil war in the United Kingdom. You've got all the ingredients for a civil war in France. Different ethnicities, different religions, different ideologies, and a country that can't cohere with itself. All it needs now is a spark. And the spark, the most likely spark, I think, in this country is going to be an economic collapse. GDP in this country and national debt in this country are 1-to-1 equivalents. GDP, national debt is 100% of GDP, meaning that every pound we produce in the British economy right now is already called for to pay the national debt. It only takes our debtors to call in our debts, and the British economy is going to go through the floor. And then you're going to have, what?
Who owns the debt?
The international banking system. But what will end up happening is that you'll end up with millions of men on the street with no jobs, nothing to do, angry, poor, frustrated, and looking for someone to blame. And then different groups are going to blame different groups. And into that milieu, people like me are going to step and say that the solution is Christianity. Into that milieu, the Islamists are going to step and say that the answer is Islam. The ethno-nationalists are going to say blame black people and brown people and Asian people, right? And it's going to end up being this conflagration between different ideologies and ethnicities and religions. And I want a church that can handle that future, that can deal with that future. Because the kind of polite civic religion, let's be a friendly club for middle class people, or let's just practice, goopy Christianity, thank you. That kind of Christianity is not competent to the challenges that we face right now. The thing is, liberalism, it's Christianity, liberalism, or Islam. Choose your poison. But only one of those is going to save you. And that's going to be the Christian faith. And if you, and as someone who is, as Jewish and Gentile, as Jewish and Christian, you have a long heritage in France. Jews have been in France since the Roman times. Christians have been in France since the Roman times. So both of those things can lay claim to France side by side, right? But Christianity is the thing that molded France.
100%.
Everything about France. So if you want to capture and hold on to your French heritage, your French identity, forget the revolution. The revolution is a blip, right? I mean, you ended up having what, like 6 revolutions or 5? How many revolutions have you had? 6?
5, 6.
5, 6. So in other words, they don't work, right? They're not working. But Christianity guided France for over 1,000 years. France was called the oldest daughter of the church. She was its principal defender. Louis IX, who is my personal saint, whom I venerate, who I look up to. I've got a picture of him on my computer. Louis IX is my hero, right? He's a French king and a saint.
Why him?
Why him? Because he was involved in the Crusades. And because he was a true leader.
13th century?
Yeah, 13th century. He was a true leader. You know, when his army was defeated, he didn't run off like lots of kings would have. He stayed with his army all the way to the bitter end. And then even when he was released, he didn't run back to France, even though he could have. He stayed in the Middle East for another 2 years trying to get his soldiers free, right? And he only lost his crusade because of the incompetence and the arrogance of some of his generals. He actually was competent militarily, but he was let down by the hubris and pride of some of his knights, right? So the guy's a full-blown Christian hero. Because being a Christian, being a good Christian is not necessarily about success. Being a good Christian is about faithfulness. Being a good Christian is about living a life of virtue, of courage, of honor, of justice, of bravery in the face of the enemy. You know? And it's about fighting for the kingdom of God against the kingdom of Satan. France has been, since the revolution, in the grip of the kingdom of Satan. Look at what you did to the Vendée in France. Do you know about the revolution and what you did to the Vendée? Yeah, you butchered. Like, there was a Catholic anti-revolution. There was a Catholic counter-revolution.
Saint Barthélemy?
Yeah, he was one. Yeah. No, not that. But the Vendée.
No, I don't.
Look into them. And the French Republic, at its birth, wiped out, I can't remember whether the number's 30% of the Vendée or 80% of the Vendée, but it was a genocide.
When about was it?
This was immediately after the revolution. So it was in the 1700s, 1800s, right?
I didn't know that.
Yes, you didn't know that, because the blood of the French Republic is built upon the blood of Catholics, right? And so no Catholic should love the Republic, because the pillars of the Republic are built upon the foundations of the martyrs of the Catholic Church. And so to be truly French Christian is to reject the Republic and to fight for a Christian France. Now let me give you a vision of a Christian state.
And a monarch, like within a monarchy?
Well, that's one way to constitutionally do it, and it's the way that I favor, right? But let me explain.
There's a movement in France right now.
Yeah, I know.
That wants to bring back the monarchy in France.
Yeah, but the point is, I'm not sure how Christian their ideas are, or how ethnically nationalist they are.
I think they lean more towards ethnically nationalistic than Christian.
As Christians, we should reject ethno-nationalism.
Even if it serves your interest, gets you closer to your goal.
Well, what's the point in compromise? We might as well. Why not compromise with Muslims?
Because I think the end goal you're speaking about is not compatible with where.
But ethno-nationalism.
They want a king, and that would favor.
Ethno-nationalism is not compatible with Christianity. When Louis IX returned from the Middle East, he invited thousands of converts from Islam who were Arabs or Arabized peoples he invited them to come and settle in France. Thousands of them. That's not ethno-nationalism, is it? He basically said, I'm leaving, all of you Christian converts from Islam, come with me, even though you're Arabs, even though you're Turks, even though you're Syrians, even though you're Egyptian, come with me and live in France.
And it went well?
Yeah. They came, they lived, and they integrated. They integrated because they were Christian, right? Christianity is what allows the integration of races. Ethno-nationalism is against the integration of races because it wants to reject race on the basis of race. Whereas Christianity can integrate races because of a common shared doctrine and value system. So an expression of what a Christian state would look like is that the king, once every 5 years, the king who is a Christian and has been raised as a Christian, discipled as a Christian, and is acknowledged to be faithful by the bishops, would once every 5 years lay out the strategic plan for the nation. The parties in the parliament would then debate the king's speech and argue about the best ways to implement the king's speech and prepare manifestos about how to make the king's speech real. And then the electorate would choose which of those parties they preferred to make the king's speech real. So the king's power is checked by the bishops. The bishops don't get to tell the king the strategic vision. The king lays out a strategic vision, but the execution on a yearly basis is done by political parties. Those political parties are checked by the people because they get elected by the people every 5 years. And then the judiciary steps in to uphold the laws that are passed by the parliament. So you've got a separation of powers. No one's got absolute power.
People feel like they have control.
People do have genuine influence over how they're governed.
But whatever party gets elected, it will be to serve the king's
strategy. Yes. And the king would be a Christian laying out the strategy.
And the only question I have is, how do you select this first king?
Well, I mean, the current king's no good. And the next king, the next king's probably useless. So we would have to take hold of the teaching of the young children of William and make sure they were raised. We could do, or we could just kick out this monarchy and replace them with a different one. Like the Jacobites. Like I'd prefer the Jacobites, the Stuarts. You know, who, as you know, probably they flee to France, and France held the Stuarts, and the Stuarts launched their rebellion against the English monarchy from France with French backing, you know? So,
Thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
I hope that helps. Let me give you a gift.
Thank you.
It was lovely talking to you. Did you feel you got something from that?
100%.
Brilliant. So have you got a Bible, bro?
I do not have a Bible.
Right, well in that case, can you, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice, thank you.
Maybe I'll see you again?
Yes, 100%.
Do you come back to the corner much?
It's the first time I stumbled upon it today. I was on a bike and I didn't know. I learned about the history of it. I learned people have been coming here for over 100 years just to debate, exchange ideas. I'm fascinated by it. So
yeah, come again and talk to me again. All right, look after yourself.